Hello there. Yes, it's a church, and yes, we're sort of here to worship, because today I'm meeting a Hollywood legend, the king of the action flick, and owner of the longest and biggest name in the movie world, Arnold Schwarzenegger. In his new blockbuster, End of Days, the forces of evil are taken on by cop Jericho Kane, played, of course... Watch where you're going. I'm trying to do a thing here. Played, of course, by Arnold. And here he is.
Please, God, help me. Give me strength.
1,000 years you have awaited my return. Behold, you have failed.
Take it easy. We're the good guys.
They tried to kill me. Why?
She's been chosen.
Chosen for what?
If the Dark Angel consummates your flesh with this human body, then he unlocks the gate of hell.
The Dark Angel is loose!
How can you expect to defeat me when I am forever and you are just a man?
Hello, good to see you.
Good to see you. Coming to the church. What a place to go, isn't it? We built this, do you know what? We built this specially for you. Oh, see that?
Fantastic,
What a reception.
yeah. Unbelievable. Look at this.
I know, what a reception.
Great-looking audience. I like that.
They're a good-looking bunch, aren't they?
Oh, look at this. The women.
There's a lot of the women.
Yummy
here.
for the tummy.
The women,
Nice.
There's women there, there's bodybuilders.
There's everything here.
Okay.
And some really good friends from way back. Camera one, stay on them. Anyway,
Well, do you know, we've been talking to those later in the show.
Exactly,
Perhaps
yeah.
you'll wish you hadn't encouraged us to talk to those. They might have spilled the beans.
that's
Do you know
okay.
what? In one word only, how did a small-town boy from Austria become one of the most famous people on Earth?
Why do you want me to say it in one word?
One word, Arnold.
I don't stay with your rules. Dream.
Dream.
Dream. I was poor because I didn't have anything. I had no money, I had no things, we had no TV, we had no refrigerator, we had nothing as kids. But I was rich because I had a dream.
You had a dream.
I had a dream of becoming the greatest bodybuilder, and I had a dream to use bodybuilding as a means to get into films. But I had no idea that it would go as far as it did, that it would go beyond the body rolls, beyond the muscles, and then do movies like Terminator, Predator, End of Days and stuff like that. That was like, you know, I had to kind of reinvent my dream after I achieved that.
Okay, but this dream, I mean, of bodybuilding, we'll come to that, but there must have been a time in your life before that when you didn't have any thoughts of bodybuilding at all. What sort of child were you?
Well, I grew up in Austria. I was born after the Second World War in 1947. It was poverty. There was no food around, really nothing. And I think that was the reason why I developed such a tremendous desire, a desire to get out of there, and a desire to make it in life, to achieve big things. And then when I learned in school later on about America and about the skyscrapers, the big freeways, the big cars and all that, I said to myself, you know, I want to be part of this big thing.
At what point then did you start bodybuilding? How did that start? I read that at one point you looked at yourself in the mirror and you looked at your form and you thought, in order to be all in proportion, I must have 20-inch arms, which is wider than my legs. Which kind of seems, you know, I thought I wasn't having it at 15. I mean, just talk us through that moment, which is actually the most crucial moment almost in your life when you decided, I want to be a bodybuilder. How did that come about, that day?
Well, it was, you're talking about when I looked in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I looked at myself naked. And I looked down and I said to myself, this is all out of proportions.
I do the same thing myself.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah, exactly. So I said to myself, since I was a man of perfection and of symmetry, it was very important to me to build the rest of the body up to that level. And then eventually, after 10 years of training, I got to that level where I really felt, so now there's the perfect situation, perfect body, the symmetry was right and all that stuff, yeah.
Okay, because your parents, I gather, were quite disappointed because they actually wanted you to be a footballer. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it's natural when you're a young kid and you're 15 years old and you say to your parents that you want to be the greatest bodybuilder in the world and you're going to eventually become a movie star and a millionaire. You know, that they have a tendency of taking you to the shrink, you know, the psychiatrist, and they analyze your mind and what's going on up there. Maybe you're very sick, you know, and they would just, you know, walking away like this. Oh, poor boy.
I'm worried about our kid. He wants to build himself up and go to Hollywood, you know.
Exactly.
So it's very unusual then, amongst your contemporaries.
Everyone was basically, you know, laughing at me, at those ideas, and which was okay for me because there was one thing that I had, and that is a very clear vision of my goal.
But it seems odd, I mean, sorry to break in, but it seems very odd for someone that young to have such targets. I mean, ones that at the time would be just ludicrous, and to actually stick to them. I mean, did you think at the time you felt different to other people? Did you feel you were destined for greater things?
Well, I think whenever you do greater things, it's unusual. It's strange, it's weird. I mean, you know, there are very few people in the world that does what you do. If you would have told your parents when you were a kid, that's what I want to do, I'm sure your parents would have said, I mean, I don't know your parents, but I mean, they would have said, you know, honey, why don't you just go to school and relax and do your homework and don't talk about those kind of things.
Yeah,
but, I mean, you know,
read your Bible, son.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, it's always odd for a parent. It's the same, you know, when I'm sure if my kids come to me and say to me something odd like that, I maybe would react as a parent like that.
Okay. What sort of food were you eating daily at this time? Do you remember the kind of intake to get that?
Well, I would say that normally, you know, you're required to eat high-protein foods. But that's easier said than done. You know, in Austria, I mean, you know, we had once a week meat in my family because there was not the money available. So I had once a week, you know, some sausages or something like that. Like I remember one of my relatives that was in America sent over skim milk product, skim milk powder. After the Second World War, my mother stored all those cans, and so I used those cans. They had like 40% protein. So I made protein drinks with that, mixed it with milk and raw eggs and all those kind of things. The kind of mixed drink that you see in a movie in the beginning and end of days.
Oh, that's
actually.
the most disgusting drink I've
but
ever
that's
seen.
the way it was. Then we put some liver pills in there and stuff.
You even liquidized pizza in a drink, and no one does that.
Exactly, yes, and yogurt and Pepto-Bismol and all those kind of things. Even
I thought that was genius, actually, putting the indigestion thing in a drink that's going to give you indigestion. I thought that kind of worked.
Just in case.
Yang there, yeah.
Just in case there's indigestion.
I say breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Oh, I'm good.
There's going to be a lot of people watching this show. It's getting near Christmas. We're about to get a time of the year when we all really overindulge ourselves.
That's what you call confidence. There'll be a lot of people watching. This is an enormous rating, guys.
It's a massive...
This is the biggest rating we've ever had.
It's the biggest rating we've ever had.
Because you're on it, Arnold.
Yeah,
I like
you're on it, Arnold.
Confidence, you see, that's what makes you great.
Don't knock it. Do you know what? There's going to be a lot of people watching this, millions, throughout the world.
Absolutely.
We've got a global audience for this, and they're all going to be overindulging themselves over Christmas. They're going to be drinking a lot of booze. They're going to be eating a lot of food.
Can you blame them?
Especially here in Britain. They're going to be putting on a few pounds. Can you give them any tips, just a couple little workout things, perhaps, just to keep that at bay this Christmas?
Well, I don't think that they need to do anything at Christmas time. I think everyone should just enjoy themselves, eat and drink and have a good time. And then after, when New Year comes around, they should set a program of reducing that extra fat that they've gained. But I mean, they just want to have a good time, you know, and for Christmas, so do I. Okay. I'm going to have my Austrian schnapps, I'm going to ski down the slopes, and I'm going to have a great time.
So Arnold says, put on weight over Christmas and have lots of booze.
That's it.
Have you ever been out of shape in your life? Has there ever been a time in your life when you thought, oh, I've got to get back down to the gym, I've really let myself go?
Well, I think that it's a very difficult thing to answer because in a way, even the day when I won the 7th Mr. Olympia title, I felt like, you know, I was not in great shape. So I was always so hungry for perfection and so hungry for being bigger and better and lifting more and performing better and all those things. I think you need that in order to be successful, in order to really be extraordinary in the profession that you do. If you're happy with just anything, it's not going to motivate you enough to really work for it. And I think it was a big plus, and I think that all goes back to my childhood, you know, for growing up in a little place with nothing. Whereas my kids today grow up much more comfortable with money, with a totally different upbringing. They will most likely never have that drive, that hunger, and that need for being successful.
Okay, then you moved to London. A lot of people don't know this. You moved to London. Why did you come over here originally?
Well, London was the place where the Mr. Universe contest was held.
Well, let's see some memories of your time in London. Have a look at this.
There was this big Austrian boy in a fawn corduroy suit, sitting over...
Very short, wasn't it?
Trousers up halfway up his calves. And I said to Arnold, "What's the matter with you, boy? Why are you sitting on your own?" He said, "I don't know anybody." I said, "Well, it's all right, son, you know me now," and shook his hand. And I said to him, "Would you like to come over and enter a show and train in my gym?"
He was a real hick, you know. He was a young boy from the country, but he used to love to train here because it was the one place that he could really get a pump.
This is the gym where Arnold trained for many of his victories, right? This one here was a favourite of his. Very, very old-fashioned, but very functional. Arnold had a struggle to get into it, but we used to lever him in and then make him do it, okay? Now on there we've got probably 30 pounds. When Arnold used to use it, he would use a minimum of 300.
It's one of the most important rooms in the place because this is the feed station for Arnold. It was necessary for him not only to train like a crazy person, as he did, but to be fed every hour. And then always before bedtime, he would go on the scales because the aim was to put a pound on a day. And if that pound hadn't been reached, heaven help me, because that meant more feeding until the goal was achieved. We used to have a bed settee here, big bed settee, which after we'd sat and talked and practiced posing or whatever, we would open and Arnold would sleep here. When we became friendly, he used to come back several times a year to us. Wag would arrange a series of exhibitions around the country for him so that he could earn some money and also promote himself. And of course, he used to do shows for us in Stratford Town Hall or Poplar Civic or whatever. And then the first stop on the route, on the tour, would be with my mum and dad down in Portsmouth.